If you're going to travel to Glacier National Park and are currently trying to figure out what you need to know before you go, then you're in the right place. People often aren't quite sure how to plan a trip to Glacier National Park. There's a lot that goes into it. In this episode, we're going to look at what not to do when planning a trip to Glacier National Park, Montana. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written multiple guides and published several itineraries for Glacier National Park. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you 7 mistakes that people commonly make so that you can avoid making the same mistakes when traveling to Glacier National Park. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening somewhere else, follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. Be sure to stay to the end. I'll be sharing my number 1 mistake that lots of people make. It's extremely important if you're visiting in the summer months, which most people do. Let's dive right in.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian. He's a national park expert. He's here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
So what are the 7 biggest mistakes that I see people make when they plan their trip to Glacier National Park? Remember to stay to the end for my number 1 tip to avoid the worst mistake that you can possibly make. A mistake that many people make, especially if you don't live in the mountains, is not checking the weather. Assuming the weather in Glacier National Park will play nice with your plans can be a mistake. The park's epic scenery is best enjoyed with clear skies, but the weather can be very unpredictable and changeable. So to make the most of these postcard perfect views, you've got to keep an eye on the forecast and be ready to pivot. Reservations can make this difficult, but try to build in some adaptability where possible and add in some extra time to give yourself a cushion to allow for some of that adaptability. If you're blessed with blue skies, make a beeline for the panoramic viewpoints and the high elevation hikes where views are unmatched. But if the weather gods roll in the clouds, have a backup plan. That could mean exploring the cedar forests of the Trail of the Cedars, for example, or visiting the park's informative visitor centers. What's a mistake that people often make when they're getting ready for their trip to Glacier National Park? A mistake that people often make when they're planning is to not pack for all conditions. Glacier National Park's weather can be fickle and extremely varied, all even within a single day. You might start your morning with a crisp chill, have sunshine in the middle of the day, and then finish the day with an evening sprinkle or maybe even a dusting of snow in the higher elevations, regardless of the season. So to truly enjoy the park's diverse offerings, you need to dress for any kind of weather. So this means layers, layers, and more layers. Include a waterproof jacket, some sturdy, breathable hiking boots, some different layers of moisture-wicking tops, so that you can stay comfortable no matter what the weather. And don't forget hat and gloves. With the right gear, you'll be prepared for no matter what the weather throws at you, and you'll be comfortable no matter what happens. This is one of the most common mistakes that I see people make. I think it's a mistake to only drive the Going to the Sun Road section of the park. Now, the Going to the Sun Road is one of the most iconic and one of the most spectacular scenic drives in the entire country. It's amazing. The road crosses from the west side to the east side of the park, and there are loads of scenic viewpoints. It's also the starting point for many of the park's most famous hiking trails. And if you only have one day, then definitely that should be the focus of your trip. And that would be the only part of the park that you have time for. And you'll have an amazing time, don't get me wrong. However, many people only go there, and if you have more time, I think that's a mistake. So I highly recommend that you branch out into other sections of the park. There are several with completely separate entrances. One is the Many Glacier area of the park. Here you can spot moose and bear and hike to some seriously stunning spots like Grinnell Glacier. There's also a boat trip that you can do on the lake that is out of this world. Then over in Two Medicine, you'll find a bit quieter Slide of Paradise, also a lake, there's also a cruise, there's also amazing scenery, there's also incredible hiking trails, there's beautiful waterfalls. It's incredible, and a lot fewer people than most of the other sections of the park, which is a nice bonus. And let's not forget the North Fork. This is the less traveled side of the park, on the northwest side of the park. That's perfect if you're looking to escape the crowds and find a little solitude in the park. Each section of Glacier National Park has its own unique flavor and highlights, so I highly recommend visiting as many of them as you have time for, preferably all of them. What's another mistake that people make when they plan a trip to Glacier National Park? A common mistake that you can make is staying in your vehicle. I know that this isn't possible for everyone. If you have very limited mobility for whatever reason, just ignore this one. That's fine. You'll still have an amazing trip. Glacier is home to one of the most justifiably famous drives in the country, so you can definitely focus on the scenic drive and the viewpoints. However, if you have the mobility, not venturing out into Glacier National Park's wilds is another mistake, and it's easy to avoid. Trust me, the real magic happens when you step outside and onto the hiking trails and get away from the bulk of the crowds. So if you can, leave the comfort of your car, hit the hiking trails. There are hikes for all levels. There's easy strolls around Lake McDonald, for example, and then there's a thigh-burning trek up to Iceberg Lake that's worth the effort if you can. It's not all about hiking. If you're into water adventures, you can take a boat tour on one of the park's many glacial lakes. There are several of the lakes that have cruises that you can go on. Highly recommend them. Really beautiful. You can also hop on the Red Bus Tour, get some history along with the stunning sights, or if you like to ride or if you want to give it a go, they do have horseback riding in a couple of different sections of the park that allow you to experience the park in a different way. So there's lots of different ways in which you can experience Glacier National Park in addition to the scenic drives. Before we look at my other mistakes to avoid in Glacier National Park, if you're watching this on my @National Parks YouTube channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. It really does help. What's a mistake that people make when they're planning what to do in Glacier National Park? A mistake that many people make is underestimating the hikes. Now, if you can, you absolutely should hike in the park. However, while hiking Glacier National Park trails is a wonderful way to experience the park, thinking that all of the trails are a walk in the park, pun intended, bad pun, sorry, is a mistake. These are mountains after all, yeah? And it's easy to bite off more than you can chew. So just be really aware of the difficulty level of the hiking trail, of the altitude, and of your abilities. There are easy trails, they're not all difficult, but before you set off, do your homework. Check out the hike profiles, know the elevation games, and respect the distance. A trek to Hidden Lake Overlook might sound like a leisurely jaunt, but the elevation can leave you more tired than you anticipated or expected. And the Highline Trail, one of the most famous hikes in the park, is a high altitude challenge, not just a high five and you're done kind of deal. So make sure that you're adequately prepared and it's within your capabilities. Always pack plenty of water, salty snacks, wear layers. The weather can turn very, very quickly, and know your limits. It's always better to enjoy a hike that is within your comfort zone. So far, we've looked at 5 mistakes that people often make in Glacier National Park. We have 2 more left. Stay to the end to hear my number 1 mistake. But first up, a really common mistake that I see people make all the time is not having a detailed and flexible plan. Glacier National Park is one of the most spectacular national parks in the entire country. And because it gets so much snow in the winter, the season that you can access the park is actually very, very short. These 2 things in combination mean that it can get very crowded. There are also 4 distinct sections, each with its own separate entrance, so it's not so easy to coordinate all of them. There is a lot to see and do. So having a plan is essential. Whether you're taking a road trip to Glacier National Park, including as part of a larger trip, or whether you're just headed there only for that park, just rocking up and expecting everything to fall into place is a big mistake that I see people make all the time, unfortunately. In fact, the number 1 thing that people ask me about is how to put everything together into an actual itinerary. They worry that they won't know everything that there is to see and do. They worry that they don't know how to put it together in a way that makes sense. They worry that they'll be in a place where it's really crowded or they'll miss out on a parking space at a trailhead, which is very common. Some people are traveling with a larger group, with other family members or friends, and stress about how to keep everybody happy when everybody has different interests or different activity comfort levels. So to help with exactly this, I've created some super detailed itineraries for Glacier National Park. And you can just click on a link in the notes below. It will take you to a page that explains everything in detail. They start with an overview, and then they have a really detailed breakdown for each day of exactly what to do. There are typically different options for different activity levels for the same part of the park at the same time. So for people in your party who want to do longer hikes and maybe people who don't want to hike at all or just do shorter hikes, there are different options, and then everyone connects back at the end of that particular activity. There's also hiking trails, descriptions, maps, driving directions and maps. There's tips, there's timings, there's warnings of things to watch out for or pay attention to. So they're designed to be a one-stop shop, basically. There are options for 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4 to 5 day option as well. They'll help take away the overwhelm, and they'll give you all the information that you need in one place, in one spot, so that you don't need to worry about missing out on any of the highlights, and you don't need to stress about how to put everything together into a schedule that makes the most sense. Just follow the link in the show notes below. What's the worst mistake you can make when visiting Glacier National Park? The worst mistake to make when planning a trip to Glacier National Park in the busy season is not getting a reservation. Rolling up to Glacier National Park thinking that you can wing it without a reservation is a huge mistake. Glacier National Park is extremely popular, especially during the brief and beautiful summer season. In fact, the roads became so clogged that the National Park Service have implemented a timed entry reservation system for most sections of the park during the popular summer season. And those timed reservations typically sell out in seconds. So be sure to book ahead, know when the reservations become available, know what sections of the park you need a timed entry reservation for, and grab your spot the second it becomes available. The times, the periods, the places in the park do vary a little bit each year, so always check and mark your calendar and be ready to hit book the second they become available. However, if you miss out on these reservations, there are ways of doing it, and in fact, if you follow my itineraries exactly, you don't need a reservation, but you do need to follow them exactly. So if you want help planning your trip, just check the links in the description box below. There are a bunch of booking and planning resources there that will help you plan and book your trip. And keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national parks vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.